Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with atbbq.com, and this is grilled curry flank steak tacos with fresh naan. All right, we are back to making tacos once again, but today we are traveling all the way over to India for the flavor profile on our protein. Now we're gonna be preparing a yogurt-based Indian curry marinade for our flank steak today that will then grill up on the griddle alongside some fresh, scratch-made, warm, pillowy naan. Such a magical combination. Let's jump right in by making that dough for the naan. So we're gonna start off with 140 grams of warm water. It's about 110 degrees. I'm gonna add to that some wildflower honey. Now this is going to really help kickstart the yeast, because much like our pizza dough, our naan dough is going to be a yeasted dough. And yeast feeds off of sugar, so it's going to eat up some of that honey and kickstart this process over the next 5 minutes or so, causing this dry yeast to start to foam up and get active. So you can see we're nice and foamy now. We're ready to add our flour. We've got 2 cups or about 325 grams of double aught flour. We're gonna add to that our salt, and we're using a black garlic sea salt just for a little bit extra flavor. Got a couple tablespoons here of chili infused oil. So that oil, along with our half cup here of Greek yogurt, that's gonna really make for a nice tender bread product. So all of that now gonna go on the stand mixer with the dough hook. So second speed now, fairly quick. We'll set the timer for 5 minutes. All right, full 5 minutes now. At this point, what we want to do is we want to transfer our dough to an oiled container. Just going to hit this with a little bit of olive oil in here to keep it from sticking. Put our naan dough in the container, and we want to let that double in size. Now while that dough's rising, we're gonna put together this marinade for the flank steak and get it soaking so it's ready to go when the dough is. Now we're gonna start off with a half cup of full fat, plain Greek yogurt. A lot of good tenderizing properties here. Now next we've got our Indian curry chili paste. This is a 3.5 ounce package. We're gonna use all of it. Comes out to about 6 to 7 tablespoons. And this is one of those things that's just always great to have on hand. You can use it in marinades to actually make yourself a nice stewed curry or something like that. It offers a lot of flavor, especially just in addition to your proteins that you're already cooking. Next, we're gonna do 1/4 cup each of extra virgin olive oil and soy sauce. Next, we've got about 1/4 cup of just cilantro stems. These are great. They have lots of flavor into them. A lot of times we don't use them because of the texture, but when you're blending it into a marinade, it's great for that cilantro flavor. Then we've got a couple of serranos for some heat. We've got some garlic we're gonna mince down really fine, as well as some ginger. Equal parts on the garlic and ginger, about a tablespoon, or 2 tablespoons each, I should say. And then as far as the serranos go, you're just gonna add as many as you want as far as how spicy you want it. Now, 2 is gonna be kind of a medium spice level. And we're just gonna break down this ginger and this garlic super fine. Now, there's already garlic and ginger in that curry paste, so we're really just fortifying it, especially with this really fresh stuff. So garlic and ginger in the blender now. We're gonna add some fresh lime juice, about 2 tablespoons. And then finishing touches here, we've got a tablespoon of smoked paprika, 1.5 teaspoons of garam masala, and we're gonna do 1 teaspoon of our black garlic salt as well. Let's blend it up. Oh yeah, that's a lot of flavor. Packed into a fairly small marinade. I'll tell you what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take 1/2 cup, pour it off and save it, because we're gonna grill this up chop it up and then give it one more toss on the griddle right here in this sauce, just to really pound that flavor all the way into that flank steak. The rest of this in here is gonna go in a zip top bag with the flank steak. So here we have our flank steak. This is a Creekstone Farms prime flank steak. Fantastic piece of meat. Just a small amount of trimming that needs to be done on it. For the most part, they've already done that for us. You see a little silver skin, you might just take that off. But otherwise, this is in pretty good shape. All right, so that is going to go into our zip top bag, along with the remaining curry marinade. We want to get this fully coated in here. Squeeze all this air out, and we're going to let this sit in the refrigerator for at least 1 hour, no more than 3 hours. So that marinade starts to break down that meat just a little bit. Well, now that the naan dough has doubled in size, we're ready to now divide, portion, and shape these into 12 equal-sized dough balls. So each one of our dough balls should be about 50 grams. Once again, we're going to be utilizing our digital scale just to get that much more accuracy out of the process here in the baking world. Like I said, just 50 grams each. That's what we're gonna start with here. Go ahead and get everything portioned out, and then we'll get it shaped. A little more flour down on our work surface now. And we're gonna roll these just like we would do our tortilla balls. Just into a tight ball like that. I'm gonna set these out in a grid formation here. Keep them tight, but give them a little bit of room because they're gonna continue to do a little bit of proofing, a little bit of expanding. So we'll hit these with a little bit of flour and cover them up with plastic. We just wanna let them rest for about 15 to 20 minutes. Let that gluten relax so that we can then roll these out, press them out by hand into the shape of our naan. All right, you guys can already see how much these have puffed up here in the last 15, 20 minutes. At this point, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna stretch them out into that naan shape. So you can use a rolling pin for this if you want. You can just use your fingers, start to stretch it by hand, use a little bit of gravity, however you like, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. The great thing about naan is like nobody really expects it to be a perfect circle anyway. But ideally, you know, it'd be about a 1/4 inch thick all the way around, roughly the size of a little taco shell. Now we're just gonna put these onto some parchment on a sheet pan for now. And these can actually hang out on here in the fridge for quite a while before you need to cook them. So at this point, these could go onto the griddle right now to cook, or they can go chill out just to wait until you're ready to cook them, which is exactly what we're doing today. We're gonna cover these up, a little bit of plastic wrap on top, stick them in the fridge to rest. Now we've pulled out a chilled batch of naan dough from the refrigerator. This has been chilling there for a couple of hours. As hot as it is right now outside, I don't want to mess with this getting too warm or too sticky, so I prefer to work with the chilled dough when we're going to cook off the naan. Now today we are cooking on a griddle. I've got my grill grate set up. That's where I'm gonna cook my flank steak here in a little bit, but first we're gonna run through a couple batches of the naan dough right here on the flat top. Now the griddle's over kind of medium-low heat right now, but it's been preheating for a while. We're gonna look to get a nice little bit of toast before we flip these over, and then get them cooked all the way through. All right, getting some good bubbles already, some nice color on the bottom. Give this a flip. Now after that first flip, I'm just gonna brush the surfaces here with a little bit of beef tallow. I think clarified butter might be a little bit more traditional, but we're working with beef anyway today. So we'll go ahead and utilize the great flavor of the beef tallow on the surface of the naan. All right, getting some good color on the opposite side here. We're gonna flip these one more time back to the original side, just so that we can give them a little bit of that beef tallow, and then we'll pull them off. right, so these are coming off. We're gonna hold them warm in our bowl here. And we'll knock out round 2 and then get on to the flank steak. So the last of the naan is about to come off the griddle. We're gonna pull our flank steak out of the marinade and go directly onto our grill grate. We're gonna cook some onions and tomatoes on the other side of the griddle. Put a little bit more of that beef tallow down. Hit that with just a little bit of kosher salt, some black pepper. I'll kind of let these caramelize away up here. A quick grill on them. Not all the way softened. We want them to have a little bit of bite, but we also want them to have a little bit of color. At the same time, we've got some cherries off the vine, right out of the garden. Just gonna let those soften up and get a little bit darkened as well. A little bit of acidity in the form of lime juice. All right, onions are softened up a bit, a little bit of color. We're gonna take those off. Sure, we're getting some color on the bottom side of these tomatoes as well. And those are softening up. So we'll take those off as well. Let's go ahead and give this flank a flip. A little bit of color going on there. Cooking that marinade right into the surface of it. Looking for an internal temperature of about 125 to 130 on this. I'm gonna keep it on the low end because we're gonna slice this super thin and hit it back on the griddle real quick just before we serve it. All right, we're past that 125 now. We're gonna go ahead and pull this off and let it rest for just a minute before we slice it up. Getting the flank steak a good 5 or so minutes to rest now. What we're gonna do at this point is we're gonna chop this down into really fine pieces. Because as I mentioned before, we wanna actually hit this back on the griddle one more time. Should have a nice little bit of pink going on here in the deepest part. Yeah, just right there in the center. It's looking good. I mean, this stuff is plenty juicy. Gonna have lots of flavor from that marinade. In fact, we're gonna work a little bit more of that marinade back into it as we just hit this on the flat top to kind of crisp it up here at the end. Not wasting any of those juices that come out of the steak. Look at how juicy this stuff is and just how tender it is. I mean, it's just pull apart tender right now. That's that yogurt doing its work, that marinade. We're gonna go back into a bowl here and add that half cup of reserved marinade. And we're gonna cook it right into our shaved flank steak. And one quick trip back to the griddle now. High heat now on the griddle. Like I said, we just want to cook this marinade right into that meat. Reduce all its flavors. And a little bit of crisp on the surface. So that is looking good. See a lot of nice crisp going on there. A little bit of extra caramelization. That Maillard reaction going on. That is all good for flavor. All right, we are ready to build some tacos. Got our naan laid out. I'm gonna fill it with our curry flank steak. So next we'll come in with our griddled onions, with that bit of lime juice, just a little bit of a tangy punch to it. And then finally we've got some tomatoes. Just kind of squeeze those open, those big ones. Just let all of that tomato juice run in there. I'm just gonna finish off the little garnish of cilantro. And that is it. You want to whip up some sort of yogurt sauce, kind of like a sour cream with your regular tacos, you can do that. Little yogurt, little lime. Not necessary though. There's going to be tons of juicy flavor in these just the way they are. Wow. There's a lot going on there. That beef is so flavorful. And at this point, It's almost broken down. I mean, that marinade's just tenderized it that much. And then that last little hit on the griddle gives it that crisp, but kind of breaks it down to where it's just like almost melting in your mouth. Kind of unheard of for a flank steak, but I'm loving these flavors. And I mean, the naan around the outside, that's undeniable. It's pillowy soft, so tender. That little bit of beef tallow just to give it some fat on the surface. Yeah, I can snack on these all night. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out atbbq.com for all the products featured in today's video. If you enjoy the recipe, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to atbbq.com/thesauce. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.